good evening, whenever it is that you're going to be seeing this. Welcome. When you do come in and watch this, leave me a comment so that I know that you were here. But today I wanted to speak about why corporate professionals struggle when it comes to using their expertise and thinking like business owners, because it doesn't matter how experienced you are. You've got the experience, you've got the knowledge, you've got the skills. When you think about transitioning from your corporate space into being a business owner, you're going to struggle. Well, many of us will struggle. So first of all, let me start by asking a question. How many years have you spent building your career? I was in corporate for just over, well, around nearly 30 years. And my last job, I was there for 19 years. So what was it for you? 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20? Has it been more than that? And during that time, how many years has it been for you? During that time, you have built your career, you've solved problems, you've managed difficult situations and difficult conversations, you've led people, even though you may not have been a leader, even if you haven't had the title of, you may still be a leader in your field. You've had to make really difficult decisions and help others with it as well. But when it comes to using that information, that knowledge outside of the job, many of us will sit there and say, I don't know what to sell. I don't know what I should do. And I say that because I was one of those people too. I knew for a very long time before I left corporate that I wanted to leave corporate. I wanted to be free. I didn't want a boss. I wanted to be my own boss. I just wanted to be able to spearhead what I wanted to do passionately, what was in me to help people and serve them in that way. However, I sat there for a very long time and thought, okay, how do I package this? What does this look like? Of all the different things that we can do from all the years that we've been in corporate, how do I sell it? And for some people, I was having a conversation just last night with, no, it wasn't last night, it was in a meeting yesterday evening. And somebody was saying, I don't understand that. And it's just like, it's normal. And the reason why it's normal is because we're not trained to do that in corporate. So let's get into why it is that it's so difficult to sit there. I hope you can't hear that dog barking. My neighbors don't even have dogs, and I don't know where that dog's come from. But let's look at how why it's so difficult to take 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, 15 years of experience and monetize it, and why corporate professionals struggle. But what we're going to look at today is how you can do that without having a fancy website, without having a complicated business plan, but by simply starting to offer and put yourself out there, and starting to shift the mindset from corporate into business owner. So if that makes sense, let's have a bit of a chat. So before we go any further, my name is Rachel Charles, and I am a coach and a consultant, and I work with professionals who have outgrown corporate and don't want to jump into any further chaos. They want a safe transition into being business owners. And what I do is I help them to create and test how they can build income using the expertise that they already have without creating further headache and stress for them. And so, in doing that, when they do leave, they're leaving from a place of strategy and not panic. Because for many people who are leaving corporate, they have had enough of the microaggressions, the bullying, the micromanagement, all of the things that comes with it. Or you were just like me, and it was just like, I have all these ideas and I just want to do my own thing. And if you don't have a proper plan, if you don't have a way of making money, that is where you're going to sit and get stuck, because you're never going to jump, because you are worried about how on earth do I use my skills and generate an income. The problem is, and why it's so difficult for professionals to leave, is not because they lack the skills, it's not because they actually lack the confidence, but it's because the value that we have in those skills are hidden. I can recall so many conversations when I was in corporate where we would be talking about, do you know what, really want to go, there would be some people around me in my offices who would be saying, as well as myself, we want to get out and we want to do our own thing. But it felt as if you were trapped in a bubble, that whatever skills you had could only be used in that space. And that's the problem that many corporate professionals face, myself included when I was in there, was that the value that is in those skills is usually hidden. And they are hidden inside of your job title. It's hidden inside of your department. It's hidden inside your internal processes and the organizational structure that you work within. And it's hidden because all you have to do when you're in corporate is really show up and say, I'm a manager. I work in HR. I do risk assessment. That's all you have to do. And what happens is people hear that and you automatically get respect, you automatically get recognition. You don't have to do a whole big spiel about who you are because it's written into the job title, it's written into, you know, your daily processes and what the organizational structure is. You look at the organizational chart. If you can pick yourself out there and others know where you sit, then you don't have to do much of an explanation. When you come out of corporate spaces and you no longer have the structure that protects you, you no longer have the job title, you no longer have the role, you no longer have the department, you no longer have the automatic recognition of who you are, it's extremely difficult to now stand and say, I'm Rachel Charles, coach and consultant, because, okay, yeah, and what? I don't have you don't have an organization backing you up, which is why many of us will struggle when we leave corporate to have that recognition, to have that credibility if you haven't already done so before. So for the people who would, you wake up in the morning and you can say, I'm a manager, I work for HR. What you're really doing is speaking about the tasks that you do. Those are isolated things within a company. And if you went out into the real world outside of your corporate structure and you just said, I'm a manager, yeah, and what? People aren't going to pay you for being a manager. They aren't going to pay you just because were in HR. But what you have to look at is what sits behind that. And that's where I say that corporate hides the value of what you do inside of your role, inside of your department, inside of the structure that it works within. And so you have to unpick that and start looking at, okay, what does it mean to be a manager? And then that is what people will pay for outside of corporate when it comes to your expertise and your skills. They will pay for you solving problems. Are you able to speak to somebody and help them through having the difficult conversations with a new trainee? Are you able to, have conversations about, performance and to help somebody turn it around with a performance plan within 30 days? People will pay to be guided through difficult situations. They will pay for support with making difficult decisions, and those difficult decisions will have real consequences. They aren't going to pay for you coming out of corporate and saying, I do risk assessments. Yeah, and what? On what? For what? How are you going to help me? How are you going to make my life easier? And so, outside of corporate, the way you package your experience, so I call it the KESS equation. You have your knowledge, you have experience, and your skills. If you're into a particular genre of music, you will know the name KESS. But anyway, it just worked out that way. So the KESS equation, I call it, my framework is knowledge, experience, and skills. And within that sits your alternative income. Within your knowledge, your experience, and your skills that you've picked up over your 20, 30, whatever it is, years, 15, 10, 5 years of being in corporate, within that sits how you solve problems, how you guide people through difficult situations, how you help people make decisions where the consequences are real, and how you help people to navigate complexity and make, and take weeks of training and looking into things, and how you can take that and help them within a couple of hours. So, and this is what corporate don't show you, and this is why many professionals struggle, because it's the how you translate your experience into an offer. And so you can sit in corporate for a very long time, be experienced, but have absolutely no idea how to translate that into an offer. So instead of thinking about what your job title is, because when you come out of there, your title doesn't really matter, it's what you do and what you can solve that matters. Instead of thinking about what your job title is, think about what problems have I spent years solving. And this is where I speak about the KESS equation: knowledge, experience, and skills. And what I usually tell a lot of my clients is just get a piece of paper and write down and head, line it up with 3 columns: knowledge, experience, and skills, and write everything down. What is it that you have, what areas have you worked in for a long time? What are you trained in? Sorry, your knowledge. What are you trained in? What do you know like the back of your hand? Experience, what kind of areas have you worked in for so long that you know it like the back of your hand, and you have experience, or unique situations. You've worked in unique environments. And when it comes to your skills, what do you do well that people come to you for, that you don't even have to think about it, you don't have to second guess, you do it really well, you understand how it works, and you can do it with your eyes shut, and you don't realize that it's something that is valuable because people come to you rather than trying to figure out how to do it themselves. What you're doing there is you're taking what sits underneath your job title and you are changing it and turning it into problem solving, because that, when you come out of corporate, is what people will pay for. So think about, these are the questions that you need to ask yourself. What is it that colleagues come to me for support for? What situations do I handle well? What problems have I repeatedly solved over the years? Many times you might be the person who even your manager comes to for certain things. So don't think about, I'm in HR, I'm in sales, I'm in, operations. Think about the problem that sits behind the role and what you do well. And then step 2, what you want to do is to turn that problem into a simple offer. And instead of thinking about all the different things that you do, you have to niche it down. That's a word that people don't like, and I think it's being used anyway. We can go, if you want to find out about, do you niche or do you not niche, we can go into that in another video. But you do need to niche it down. I'll say that for now. But you do need to get very specific about who you help. So you may have been in leadership for years, and you want to, I'm a manager, I'm a leader, I'm a mentor, and what? Who do you work with? You have to get really specific. So rather than saying I help leaders, you need to be looking at, what leaders. I help new managers lead their first team without burning out, for example. That could be one of them. Right there, you're very specific in who you help. New managers do what? Lead their first team. And if you're anything like me, you remember what it was like to walk out one day as an officer and walk in the next day, walk out on the Friday as an officer and walk in on the Monday, sometimes in the same office. I've had to do that, and suddenly be a manager. And you now have to show up with a whole different hat on. So, what do you help them with? Negotiating that difficult space. And how do you do it without burning out? Because it's a steep learning curve. So, you have to get really specific. If you worked in, say you were in HR or wherever it was, and you thought, okay, I want to get into the well-being stage, and you can say, I work in well-being. That can be your bio. Okay. And again, what? I help professionals recover from burnout and rebuild their confidence. You're getting really specific, and you can even niche that down a little bit further, because what professionals? Women, men, senior managers, and you're looking at what the issues are. Can you see the difference there? It's when we talk about I'm a coach, when we say I'm in HR, I'm a leadership developer, those still have you sitting in the space where you're looking at them as roles and job titles. And when you come, and that works in corporate. That works in corporate because everything fits neatly into different boxes. But when you come out of corporate, you have to look at what are the problems that you solve. Because if you show up as I'm an HR consultant, or you show up as I'm a leadership management development manager or something like that, you're basically speaking the same language as the people who sit in there, and they can turn around, right, and rightly so, and say, well, that's what I do, so what makes you different? And so you have to look at what is the problem that sits behind the role of the person that you want to speak to, your ideal client, your ideal customer for the service that you're providing, and look at how you solve their problem. So now you know what your offer is, and now you know who it's for. You want to be able to, you have to, not even want to, you have to test it. And this is where a lot of people get stuck, because in order to test an offer, they think now that, oh my goodness, I need a website, I need to think about my branding, I need a whole business plan, and everything needs to be perfect. And it doesn't. And this is where a lot of people get stuck, because you think that there's so much that you have to do just to test your offer, or they will or they'll go ahead with it and try and do all this stuff, and then you get burnt out. And what you do is you leave one form of burnout where you are, oh, I can see someone watching, but I can't see any comments. If you are commenting, I can't see. What you do is you leave one form of burnout in the job where you are, and you think, I've had enough of this, I really want to get out. And you replace it with a whole new burnout. And to make it worse, it's burnout on top of burnout, because you're in corporate and you're feeling the strain, the struggle, the stress, and you want to get out. And then now you're trying to start a business, and that comes on top of it again. And yeah, it's a recipe for disaster. But you do need to test it. But how do you test it? Do not think about it as starting a business. You need to be gentle. You need to take your time. You do not view it as a side hustle and a hobby, because, as we say, energy, how does it go again? Energy goes where energy flows, where focus goes. So you need to take it seriously, but do not take it as, now I need a website, now I need branding. You don't need all of that. You literally need to test the offer. See this as a serious testing of your offer. And what that means is you talk to people, you share your thinking, you offer a pilot version of it. So in talking to people, again, you don't need to get up on your social media platform and start speaking to the entire world, because your first couple of customers are not going to be customers or clients, are not going to be random strangers on the internet. They are going to be from people that you already know and who are already in your network. They can be friends, they can be family, but it's going to be people that it might be people that you meet on that you've met on LinkedIn. It could be current and former work colleagues. And those are the people that you're going to speak to, and you're going to start sharing your thinking. But I hear you. I have to share my thinking, and that's a bit scary, because I'm in my job. I don't want to talk to people about, wanting to leave my job. I don't want to put that out there, because I don't know how I'm going to be viewed. And that is a totally legitimate feeling, because we know that the minute you start getting visible and start doing something that looks like, oh, is she no longer representing the organization, or they're talking about something, or not even that, the minute it feels as if you have an opinion outside of the organization, the eyes come on you, and you don't know who's watching, you don't know how it's going to be construed, you don't know what's going to be fed back. And I speak from experience when I say that they are always watching, and people will feed stuff back when they really don't need to. So if that is your fear and you're worried about showing up, and remember I said that you do not have to, get on social media and automatically go, become an influencer or go viral. Chances are that's probably not going to happen at this stage anyway, but I know that that is the fear for many people. But you don't even have to go out there and start blasting everything out. It's all about being clear, not about being visible everywhere. It's about having clarity in your message. Having clarity in your message is going to be you being visible anyway. into a degree. But what that means is that you have to show up in a way that is authority led. That if you are trying to be a authority in your field and be thought led, and so that you can share your ideas and not necessarily just that of the organization, you have to do it in a proper structured way so that it doesn't affect your reputation or standing in work. And if that is your worry, because you don't know if you're going to be crossing any lines, who's going to see it and who's going to say what, I've got you covered. I have a free guide that will help you to show up as an authority on your platforms without risking your reputation. And I've added in themes and topics that can help you and that you can customize with customizable prompts so that you can have a structure that fits you and keeps you safe within the arena of your corporate job. So if you would like to get a hold of that guide, I'm going to put a link in the description when this video is done, or you can just comment guide in this video, and I was in the comments in this video, and I'll send it directly to you. But yes, so you need to share your thinking, and then you need to offer them a pilot version. And it's literally this simple. And when I say that you do not need a website to do this, you literally do not need a website to do this. You need to just start talking to people. And this is where you get used to having those conversations with people. And you literally just need to talk. You have your offer, you know what it is, that you know what your offer is. And this is all you need to say. And I'm going to read off my script here. Over the next month, I'm working with a few professionals who want support with X. Let me just grab my charger. Who want support with X. If that's something you're navigating, message me. Or you can just say, if you've already got the package together, you can say, this is what I'm helping. Would this be useful for you? And that's it. It doesn't have to be a great big launch. It doesn't have to be something scary. The minute we start thinking about, I want to put something together and I want to, put an offer out there and I want to start a business, we start panicking. Just see this as a controlled experiment. This is a test. And what that does is when you start getting feedback, you're going to get feedback. And because you are approaching people that you worked with who know you, and this is the important thing, because you're not going, like I said, you're not going out there and finding random people on the internet, on Michael B. Jordan's internet. You are finding people that you already work with, who already know about your reputation, who you already have credibility with. These are people who will respond more than likely favorably to you so that you can test your offer on. What you do is you run the offer. You do what it takes to, you do what the offer says, whatever it is that the service that you're going to be providing. And if you want to go through what those services could be based on your skills, we can do another video about that as well. But what that means is when you get these favorable, some people are going to answer, some people aren't, some people are going to ignore it, some people are going to take it up. But when you get those favorable responses, it doesn't mean that you quit your job tomorrow. This is literally, like I said, a controlled experiment. This is you learning about how you can start generating income from your expertise so that you can have options after. Because at this stage, you're not even thinking about replacing your salary. What you're thinking about is, how easy is it for me to have these conversations, and how easy is it for me to understand what conversions look like? How easy is it? Do I actually have ideas from my knowledge, my experience, and my skills? Remember the KESS equation, from your expertise, so that I can start generating income. And what that looks like in the beginning is not, replacing your salary. It looks like a couple of £100 a month. It looks like your first £100. But what that first £100 is proof that you can create an income outside of your salary. And that is a powerful shift, because until you have that conversion, until you have the validation of your offer, you don't actually know whether your idea works or not. And that is where many people get stuck, because they don't even go as far as testing the offer. They just think about it and they sit there and they think, oh, I'd like to leave my job, but what am I going to leave it to do? And they don't get to the testing stage. I need you to get to the testing stage. I need you to get to the space where you're not putting pressure on yourself to, think of your business, of what it's going to be as a baby. You would not be expecting it to be doing the heavy lifting. You need to test it. You need to see, what do the solid, what does the milk feel like, and what does the solids feel like afterwards. This is where you are in the milk stage, going into the smashed food. Let me stop that analogy now. But this is the testing stage of your business. And when you get your first £100, your first £500, your first £1,000, it is a powerful shift that lets you know that your idea has legs and that you can actually start creating alternative income outside of your salary. You're doing this whilst you're still within your job. You're doing this whilst you have the security of your salary every month. But that is why many people get stuck, because they aren't quite sure how to package their expertise. They don't know how to put it into an offer, and they haven't tested it. And so that's why I'm creating a 6-week program. And within this program, that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking at what your skills, knowledge, experience are, and how to package those into offers. We're going to be looking at how to position it. And most importantly, we're going to be looking at how to find your first clients. So by the end of it, you will have an offer. You will be very clear about what that offer is and how you're showing up on what that problem is that you're solving. And hopefully by the end of it, you would have at least had your first paying customer. So you are going from, I have the experience and I'm not quite sure what to do with it, to this is my offer. This is who it helps, and this is how I start testing it. It's about moving from the mindset of being a corporate employee, where you are given your role, you are given your position, you are given all the policies and practices that you have to work by, and then given a salary, to you taking charge of your own expertise and being able to use it outside. So if that's something that you think might be useful for you, turning your experience and your expertise into something of your own, then that program might be a good fit for you. So stay tuned and you will find out more about it as the weeks go on. We're going to be starting in April, but if you want to be the first to know, then send me a message and I will send your details, and I will send the details through to you when the dates come out. But I'd love to support you through that process if you are sitting there with a wealth of experience and want to be able to do something with it outside of corporate. So before you leave, or before we end this, what I want to say is one of the things that used to kind of not bother me, but one of the things that used to play around in my head years before I left corporate was intellectual property and what do I do with it. And your career experience, this is what I want to leave you with, is that your career experience is unique to you. Yes, you got your knowledge, your skills and experience through all those years in corporate, but it is unique to you and it belongs to you, and you have something very unique that you can bring forward. What you have to, because think about the colleagues who come to you. Clearly there's an understanding that you have that others may not have. And this is where sometimes we get a bit mixed up with, can I use it outside because it belongs to my company? It's yours, let me tell you that. So what you have to do is learn how to package that properly. And that's what we're looking at, because when you do that, it will become one of the most valuable assets you ever have. Because what is the use of having 20 years of experience and not being able to use it? That's something worth pondering, isn't it? Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. If you got all the way to the end, Put a blue heart in there. I'd like that. But anyway, I will see you again when I'm back on next week, and have a great end to the week. Take care. Bye.